Joining me right now is Laffer Tengler Investments Chief Investment Officer Nancy Tengler. Also joining the conversation all morning long this morning is Fox Business's Dagan McDowell and senior writer at the Wall Street Journal, John Hilsenrath. Great to see you guys this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Nancy, let me kick it off with you. What a day yesterday. Assess what you saw, what you think is sustainable in terms of gains in this market. And then I want to ask you about the NASDAQ and what's going on there, included some of those stay-at-home stocks.
Thanks for having me, Maria. Well, yesterday what we saw was kind of a flip of a switch for many investors. Remember that we've seen massive inflows to bond ETFs at the expense of stock ETFs and a lot of cash on the sidelines. So though the vaccine news was not new information, it was still very optimistic. And so investors piled in, and then the rally was accelerated by the algos. And so I think what we had expected and said, actually, we published something in the middle of the day, was that the rally was unlikely to hold. And we saw that. We saw the fade as the day wore on. So I think it's excellent news, but it's not new information. It was just really an excuse for some investors to get in and start putting some cash to work.
So what are the questions then? I mean, why did you think that it wasn't sustainable, that it was going to fade? And why would we see questions now? What is standing in the way, do you think, in terms of the worries on Wall Street?
Well, you know, Wall Street in the short term is usually pretty emotional. In the long term, I would argue that the markets are fairly rational. But, you know, a stock like Zoom, for example, a stay-at-home stock, or a Peloton, they had hit sort of euphoria levels prior to this, and then the sell-off yesterday was also exaggerated. And so, you know, you can't underestimate the Robinhood cohort that's in trading these stocks on a daily basis, kind of narrative names. And now what you're seeing is that people are pulling back from the stay-at-home trade. You know, we're in the middle. We think that that behaviors that were catalyzed by COVID are not necessarily going to change overnight, and in fact may sustain. So you might want to use some of this weakness in the NASDAQ names to step back in and pick away at some of the higher quality names that are getting pulled down with everything else.
Yeah, it's a great point, because stay-at-home stocks got hammered yesterday, even in the face of this huge rally for stocks. But you had companies like Zoom, Peloton, Netflix, Amazon, all taking a hit over the prospect that life gets back to normal and we will be using fewer of these companies. So you're saying there could be a buying opportunity here because people's sentiment do not change overnight, even if vaccines on the market and we start seeing it distributed.
Exactly. I mean, look, you saw also energy stocks, some of them, and the travel stocks up 30%. The prospects of re-engaging in travel are very optimistic, but nobody's done it yet. And so I think what you'll see is that these stocks will pull back. And I'm not saying you should sell them, certainly, but this pendulum is going to continue to swing for a while.
I think it's a great point, Nancy. I'm glad you made it. Good to see you this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.